Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Hey, we are closing in on the holidays, another few weeks away. It's a happy, joyous time for the most part until you mix in the part about the stress and anxiety that can come along with that, especially when you're worrying about gifts and parties and fitting everybody in and making your family happy. How do we manage holiday stress and anxiety? Well, we're going to find out. She is somebody that helps people deal with that all the time. You can find her at myquantumheal.com. Dr. Cecilia Cervantes is back on the program with us. Cecilia, how are you? How are you doing?
Great. It's wonderful.
Funny because I'm laughing because just before we got on here, it's like I had a little bit of stress because we had a tech issue. It's like we got a time limit here. It's like that's life. It's always going to be there. You can't get rid of it.
It's a part of life. It's learning to cope with it that's important. And so that you don't run away with all this anxiety. And this is where people get into trouble and they get anxiety disorders as well, because there's too much stress and anxiety. They don't know how to manage it. They don't have the help they need. And they may, self-medicate with the wrong things as well.
Yes, that's very true that it can lead to different addictions as well as you try to find a way to cope with it. How do you head it off of the pass? It's stressful situation, you're digging into it, you're anticipating it. Maybe that's half of it, not to anticipate it.
Exactly, because stress or anxiety actually is kind of it's worry or fear of the future, of what might happen, and you start to run all these negative scenarios in your head. What if this happens and that happens, and what if they say this to me or that to me, and then you're just running down this rabbit hole of negativity, rather than focusing more on how you want things to come out. Focusing on what you want rather than what you don't want. We tend to focus on the negative too much.
Hmm. It's so true and so, dare I say, elementary. It's so obvious, but we don't think of what you just said because we're programmed to think of the worst case outcome. Maybe it's I think it's called a lizard brain, where it's just you're worried about fight or flight. Got to work. I got to make sure it's going to be okay because this could happen over here. Probably never ever going to happen. So why not worry about the things? Well, not worry about, but why not consider the things that you want to happen?
Exactly. Yes, it's that reptilian brain, they call it, the reptilian brain that is there for your survival, for the fight flight response. And sometimes you go into fight or flight, and sometimes you go into a freeze response, the deer in the headlights, where you just can't move. But if you are chronically in that fight flight mode, it's not good for your body either, because your body chemistry changes and you are running all these, stress hormones and such, stress chemicals in your body. And it actually can damage your body because it does create inflammation in the body. Also, when you are in this state of, worry and overwhelm, you cannot come up with a solution. Your brain is in survival mode. It's not your higher functioning part of your brain isn't working. So you can't come up with solutions.
Yeah, because you're all scattered. You're going,
Yeah,
you're going crazy, but you've got a lot going on. How can you focus on the solution to move past it and then get yourself in a better state? When you say we're in a flight or a fight or flight situation,
yeah.
is it really possible to be continuously in that state?
Yeah, there are people who walk around sort of paranoid all the time that something's going to happen, something bad is happening, they can't relax, you know. The glass is always half empty and you always have to be prepared. You're always on preparation mode for the other shoe to drop, so that you can be ready to either flee or fight, you know. And so you are running all these stress hormones all the time in your body. You've probably seen people who look like they're constantly in stress. They can't, you know, they're frantic all the time. And maybe they've had too much coffee, you see someone who's had too much coffee and they're zipping around and running around, in New York, you know how it goes. New Yorkers are always running, running, running. Of course, not all of them, um,
Pretty much.
but you understand how, you can feel when someone is very frantic. You feel the energy in them, and they're not relaxed. They're not chilled out. Just kind of taking things in so that you can think things over and come up with solutions to your problems. Because you can now use your higher functioning part of your brain instead of using your brain stem, your lizard brain that is there for, as you said, the lizard brain. The reptilian brain is there for, surviving an attack, surviving something bad that's happening.
Bracing.
Um,
You're bracing for something to happen.
Racing, yes, yeah.
So let's say we have a stressful situation coming up. Maybe it's a holiday dinner,
Yeah.
something, and you're anticipating it. What's the best way to deal with that?
Well, you can always prepare for it. Imagine yourself, what's going to happen. I go to this dinner or whatever, and there are people there that maybe I don't like. Just how can you avert that? Think of ways that you can make it less stressful for you. Um, don't talk about certain subjects, whatever. Don't drink too much. People can drink, overdrink when they're kind of anxious. It's a little self-medication. And then things can get out of control. Plus, it's not healthy for you to do all that drinking. And during this holiday season, there are a lot of parties, there's a lot of drinking, there's a lot of excess. Of course, moderation is always the key. Don't overdo things. Don't overeat too much food. Whatever. All that stuff is important.
What is the effects of alcohol? Because invariably it's part of a holiday celebration. Let's say I'm going to have a couple of drinks. I'm going to, numb it out a little bit. I got to deal with Uncle Vinny. So, uh,
Mm.
we often say that's not the best thing to be doing because it's an antidepressant. So, in some regards, it takes you here to here, and that may be a good thing for the stress. But what about on the other side of that? What are your thoughts about that?
Um, well, alcohol will disinhibit you. And so you may say or act ways you don't want to act. Some people have, they're not very good drinkers, and they get into fights and they get angry. So it's not healthy for them. And it's not healthy for your brain for chronic drinking, of course. It's toxic to the brain, at that point when you're drinking a lot. And it's not good for your liver. So there are a variety of things that, of course, you don't want to overdrink. Uh, Not even binge drink for a short time. That's not healthy for you. Um, so that did I answer your question?
Yeah, yeah, but now you're leading me into another area.
Yeah.
They call it self-medication. If you can have a couple of drinks and try to deal with the situation.
Yeah.
Long term, Cecilia, how do you make the determination to prescribe a med for somebody for anxiety? When do you know you're at that point where it's like, all right, yeah, I need something.
Well, I don't always go right to medication. If we can adjust things, adjust behaviors, like the drinking, um, and and then look at what are the triggers to your anxiety, what's triggering you, and is this a chronic situation? If you're someone who has anxiety, chronic anxiety disorder, maybe at that point we can think about medicating. But doing some other behavioral things like cognitive behavioral therapy, I might add some herbs and adjust your diet, because your how you eat and the nutrients you get can affect your psychology, your emotionality. Of course, chronic anxiety puts more inflammation in your body. So having you do an anti-inflammatory diet would be very good. It could really change how you feel inside your body, so that you're removing some of those inflammatory chemicals that make you feel badly and act out, unable to control your emotions. So, well, we want to look at it holistically. What's your diet like? What's your life like? Are you drinking alcohol? Are you self-medicating in any way? You know, Can we add some herbs and some anti-inflammatory foods and nutrients to your diet? Are you getting enough minerals in your diet? There are certain minerals that trace minerals that your brain needs, to function well. So we look at the whole picture before we automatically go to medications.
Hmm. You bring up a great point because there could be things your body could be reacting to things that you're eating, but you might not even be aware of it. So maybe, like you said, before you go to the medication, that it would be time for testing and looking deeper into things. Listen, you could have an intolerance of gluten, whatever it might be, and it's causing
Yes,
issues in your stomach, which makes you feel stressed out.
exactly.
And that leads to, that craziness in your mind where it's all you needed to was fix that what you're eating. Your diet could be contributing to it, I would assume.
Yes, it could be. And then there could be some things going on in your body. So getting some blood tests to make sure that things are well and getting a checkup. How's your heart doing? How are your lungs doing? All these things, looking at different things. Is there a chronic infection going on
Hmm.
or something like that where you're acting out? We see this a lot in the elderly where, when they get sick, they may get anxious or start having different behaviors, and if they're not able to communicate that well, we've got to go look for that to make sure that that's not the problem. So
It's a good point because
um,
sometimes we can't even communicate how we feel. Forget about even being a,
yeah,
you don't know why you're stressed out, but you know there's something not right going on.
right. So is it something going on in the body? It's something else going on in your mind? Are you obsessing over something? uh, we need to look at the whole picture before we, quickly decide on treatment. We've got to do a full assessment. So, and that, brings me to when you go to your doctor to talk to them about your anxiety. You're going to need more than 5 minutes of seeing your doctor, sometimes 15 minutes. We don't spend enough time with patients to really get to the root cause of what's troubling them.
That's a big thing right there because it's a story that you need to tell with your doctor. And usually you've got,
Mhm.
I think research shows 11 minutes. You have
Yeah.
11 minutes. There's no way that you can go into detail. And sometimes it's not easy for us all to verbalize what's going on. And now your doctor is off to the next patient and usually is probably writing that script that you might not have needed. Not being negative here, but that's kind of how it can go. When we say stress, when we say anxiety, Cecilia, is there a difference or what is the difference?
Well, you have different stressors, stressors outside of yourself that can lead you to react in an anxious fashion. So we live in, a world where there's lots of challenges, and we might call that stressors. Uh, and they're not going to end. We need to know how to cope with things, better cope with things. This is where the cognitive therapy might be good for some people because they just don't know how to cope. They don't know how to let things go, or to change their behaviors, or to stop doing certain things that trigger them into that response. um, so we need better coping mechanisms. We spend too much time, say, on the computer, and that's not always a good thing for us, or watching the news 24/7, because we didn't always have 24/7 news. You remember a time when that wasn't there.
Yeah, it was the
And
news 6 o'clock with Dan Rather. It would come on sometimes your local news, and at 2 hours and you're done, not 24/7. And there's so many different sources of news, and unfortunately, it is stressful. It's negative, even if it's about politics.
it's always, a lot of times it's very negative, and there's always breaking news, and that makes people stop. Oh my God, am I supposed to do something? And it turns on that fight flight response. There's breaking news. What, are we going to be attacked? What? Especially after 9/11, people just became glued to the television and waiting for that breaking news so that they could respond in an appropriate manner, but it's become inappropriate.
Do you deal with a lot of people that have stress, anxiety?
Yes, and a lot of it they'll tell me, yes, I'm always reading the stuff on the computer. I'm watching news. I'm watching this thing and that thing that's telling me about, the next worst thing coming down the pike. The pandemic didn't help us with that. It made people really focus on their computer, and so they're always afraid that something's going to happen. There's going to be another big bad germ to come along, and or you know we're worried all the time. You can't go out to the market without like, is that person sneezing and coughing? Do they have an infection that I could get? There's a lot of that kind of stress. And we need to learn how to let some of that go because it's not going to be good for us. Ultimately, it destroys us.
I totally forgot about COVID because I blocked it out of my mind. And you are correct. And, all you have to hear is, especially, well, here in the New York area, it's kicked up. I think the infection rate is like 10.2% right now. So if you're watching all of that and then you're hearing, oh, this friend has it, that friend has it, that's just adding to it. And sometimes, is there anything that describes I want to describe this properly, a subconscious stress. So it's not on your radar, but it's still in the back of your mind, like COVID. Like I just said, man, just put it out of my mind. Of course, I'm thinking about it. You walk into anywhere, some people are wearing masks, and it's like you try to block it out, but it's there. Is there a term for that?
Well, subconsciously we repress things, but we may start to react to it before we even know it because it's subconsciously repressed inside of us. So that we will respond to triggers that are not verbal. They may be visual or whatever, or we hear something and we're anchored to it and we'll respond to it. Um, so sometimes we don't even know why we react the way we do. We just react, because we're wired that way neurologically. Um,
Hmm.
I to give it a name, I'll have to give it to you another time. It doesn't come to mind right now.
I didn't even know if it existed, but I just
I
thought,
don't know.
you
I
know,
will find out.
there's got to be something sitting in the back of
Yes.
the brain where it's you're aware of these things, but you don't want to deal with these things. But at the same time, internally, you are dealing with it. You just
Yeah.
don't know that it's marinating inside you and you're worried about certain things. So,
Yeah. And you react out of the blue, and you ask yourself, where did that come from? Well, that is something that needs to be dealt with because you will continue to react that way.
yeah.
And so there are lots of people walking around in fear. Um, my personal opinion, they've overdone the COVID pandemic thing, and they're constantly running things on television, and people are afraid. They're afraid to go out of their house. They're afraid to live. They're afraid to be human. Humans, we have immune systems. Nobody talks about the immune system
Right.
and how to strengthen your immune system with diet, exercise, mindset, all those things.
And no
Living,
stress, lack of stress, right?
yeah, yeah. We need to be talking about that. How to strengthen your body because we're not going to walk around in spacesuits, on Earth. Okay, we have an atmosphere here. We have plants and things that grow. Uh, it works. The pandemic, yes, the viruses have been around for a long time. We can deal with these things. We're not going to melt in our shoes.
Well, if our immune systems weren't as they are, we'd all be sick. We'd all have COVID. So thank you for bringing that up. I think we
Yeah.
forget about that.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, I have other opinions on that, how it's been treated and how it's been managed. I won't discuss it here, but I think there's been too much fear placed out there. Um, and you have the bully pulpit of the media putting this out there, unfortunately. And people are cowering in their homes. They're afraid to go out to the backyard even without a mask on.
Yeah. Yeah. And
We
it is a media thing. They're always looking for uh, something that looks big to grab people or taking a story and exploding it so it sounds big, and then there's a debate on it, and then it just goes on and on and on. But to your point, that stress does start eating away at your immune system.
Yes.
And I think we forget about that too. Any thoughts, final thoughts on dealing with stress and anxiety as we lead into the holidays? Because it's going to be big.
Yeah, yeah. Take a step back, watch what you're eating, everything in moderation. Don't overdrink. It's not gonna help anything for you. Be mindful of all of that. Get some exercise, get some relaxation time. We don't want to elicit the fight flight response. We want to elicit the relaxation response. Go out into nature, enjoy people, be around people who are pleasant, who make you feel good.
Mm.
If you go into a situation and you don't feel good about it, or something annoys you, get out of that situation.
Well, to your point, you allow it. So you're
Mhm.
anticipating going to that holiday dinner. Now you got to deal with that one person. You're stressing out over it. You're allowing them to do it to you. You're allowing them to control you, and you don't need to. You just make the decision to block them out, respectfully ignore them, whatever you
Mhm.
need to do, or just engage with them and just smile. Okay,
Right.
whatever you say.
Whatever you say, change the subject, walk away, and to divert their conversation and their negativity. You have the ability to control what goes on with you. You
That's
have the ability to control your state. You can decide what you want to do and how you want to feel.
Yep. It's your choice. You have the choice. And a lot of us
Okay.
choose.
Yes.
But then again, you know what? A lot of us do choose the confrontation and the pity party. Look at them. But every time I go to the party, look what they always do to me. Blah, blah, blah. That's you.
You allow yourself to be the victim.
Yes. Yeah.
Be in charge, be at cause and be in charge. We teach that in NLP. Be at cause, take responsibility for everything that happens to you, because that's the only way you will have control.
And that's not to say that that person isn't annoying.
No, it's not. They're responsible for their behavior too.
Right. Right. But it's your reaction. And they could
Mhm.
be annoying five different people at that party, including yourself, but that's them. You don't have to allow them to do that. Just let it roll off. And I think once
Yeah,
we get into the habit of letting things roll off, life is so much better. You're driving down the street, somebody cuts you off. It's like you can react to it and be,
yeah.
all right, whatever. Okay, just keep going. It's done. Move past.
Done.
Yeah.
Let it go. Let it go. Let that be your mantra. Just let it go.
Yeah, like the movie Frozen. Let it go. Yeah, I mean that person in that car, you can let that continue for hours if you wanted it to,
Yeah,
or in 4 seconds, that's it. You'll never see them again. They
yeah.
didn't hurt you, thankfully. They didn't
Right,
harm you. They didn't take your money. They didn't hurt your family.
right,
Bye bye.
right.
Move
You
on.
don't you don't know that person. Why are you going to carry them with you for hours and hours?
Right. And
Think about it.
you don't know their situation. Maybe there's a valid reason why they cut you off. There was some
Yeah,
a traumatic experience just happened to them, got a phone call that was horrible, whatever.
yes.
Just move past it. It's let it roll off.
Yes, you don't need to create a chain reaction.
Hmm.
Uh,
That's when you talk about traffic, that's probably how a lot of those happen, where somebody gets
mhm.
mad at the other person, they react, and then another car hits them in the back, and you have a
Yeah,
classic chain reaction.
yes.
Oh, good talk. I was
Yeah.
into this. I'm not stressed anymore.
Good.
Thinking about
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, my Quantum Heal is your website. If anybody is dealing with stress, potential stress, you can help them through many, many different modalities. Cecilia, you just mentioned NLP. That's another one
Yes.
that you help with, and these, for the most part, can be done virtually.
They can be done virtually, they can be done in person, and they work incredibly fast and incredibly well.
Yeah. And I'm a product of that. I used to be a very big worrier and very stressed out. Not to say that I don't deal with it now, but it came from here to here through those modalities that you talked about, including hypnotherapy.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Highly recommended. MyQuantumHeal.com. Cecilia, great talking with you today.
Great talking to you too. Have a wonderful, great weekend.
You too. And I'm going to have one final question. Is that your dog in the background?
Oh, there's one here and there's another one walking around. Oh, yes. So, did you see him?
Just a tiny bit. Now I see him. Yeah. Oh, he's
Yeah,
massively cute.
that's Corvus.
Ah, too cute. Well, you know what? There's a stress release right there.
Yes, therapy dog.
Therapy dog. There you go.
Yeah.
All right, Cecilia, have a great weekend.
You too. Bye-bye.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.